So I made a Mississippi pot roast in the slow cooker, and we had a good dinner. But for the leftovers, I'm going to show you how I make Mississippi pot roast bread. It's so good. So for the Mississippi pot roast, I kind of changed the typical recipe people use. I have 5 pounds of beef chuck roast going into an 8-quart slow cooker or crock pot. And I'm just going to put that in there. I'm going to add 1 package of Au Jus French dip mix. It's like a gravy mix. If you have brown gravy mix, that works. Here I'm adding a package of ranch. And for those of you familiar with that viral 5-ingredient Mississippi pot roast, this is kind of what this is. I do mine a little different. Here I'm going to add some dehydrated minced onion. I pretty much add everything with the exception of the stick of butter. So I'm going to cover that with a lid, set it to high, and let it cook for about 4 to 5 hours until everything is tender and cooked through like this. So I pretty much omitted the brining liquid from the pepperoncinis, and I skipped on the stick of butter because, as you can see, it renders a lot of natural juices and fat, but it's up to you. So if you do make this pot roast, mashed potatoes go so well with this. And the ones that I'm making are the Boursin cheese mashed potatoes. Very simple to make, and they're very creamy and rich. Okay, so you're going to want to boil your potatoes. I'm adding a bit of salt. And I'm working with about 1.5 pounds of russet potatoes that I peeled and chopped. You'll bring it up to a boil and cook until tender, fork tender. I'm going to shut off the heat, and then you'll want to add your cheese. And once you add the cheese, you're just going to mash it along with the potatoes, give it a taste, season, and salt to your preference. And that's the mashed potatoes that you can have with your tender morsels of Mississippi pot roast. But this video, I wanted to show you what I do with the leftovers as like a round 2 recipe. I did make a lot. That was 5 pounds of beef chuck roast. So for my small family, we had leftovers, and here's what I like to do. So in a small pot, I am going to create a bechamel sauce. I'm going to add about 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter in a pot on a low heat setting, and at this point you'll want to just melt that down. And I'm going to shake in, or I'm going to measure out 7 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. I'm going to give that a mix, and I'm going to let the flour and butter, or the roux, cook for about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes. Here I'm going to add 1.5 cups of whole milk. You can start with a cup of milk and add the rest little by little. Here I'm going to season with this seasoning blend that I like to use. You'll want to add salt and pepper to taste, or add your favorite seasoning blends that you have in your pantry or cabinet. So this has thickened, it's mixed, I've tasted it, it's good. So this is done. Okay, so here I have a loaf of French bread. I split it right in half, and now I'm going to start building this bread. So I'm going to add some of the bechamel sauce right on top. I'm just going to spread that over evenly, and it should be enough for both of these slices. Here I'm going to sprinkle on just a little bit of low moisture mozzarella cheese. In all, I'm working with about 8 ounces of shredded mozzarella. Here is my leftover pot roast. I chopped it up, even with those briny peppers that just taste so good. And I'm just going to add that right on top of this slice. You'll probably want to work with like 1 pound of meat. Now I'm going to go on with more of that bechamel sauce. And then I'm going to top it with cheese. And that's that. And I'm probably going to add a little more of the bechamel sauce on top of the cheese, a little extra meat. You just sort of build this like hearty layer, and it's so good. This essentially is kind of like a French bread pizza, like with a white sauce. It's really, really good. And you'll want to repeat the process for the second slice. I'm just going to finish up with some more of that bechamel sauce, and this one is done. You'll want to bake these in a preheated oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 to 30 minutes, or until it's crispy, crusty, melty, just like this. And you add some of those peperoncinis on the side. So good. I slice some to put on top. And this is it. My family loves Mississippi pot roast bread. Well, at least that's what we call it. It's kind of like a French bread pizza. It's so good. Very crispy, crusty, cheesy, creamy, meaty, hearty, just It hits all the right notes. So I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching!